Hey, everybody. Um, so far, it's just me. Uh, Lou's going to be on in a few. He's running a little bit late. I'm guessing Frank's going to be on. Haven't heard from him, but I'm assuming he's going to be. Uh, I guess we should probably just jump right into it. As of right now, we still do not have a stimulus or anything else to really talk about. Um, we're basically within hours of government funding. Um, Basically going to hell. But right now, we still don't have anything. If if you're following Twitter or anything else like that, um, you're not really seeing anything. Uh, Everybody's just kind of like waiting around, just waiting for something to do, waiting for somebody to do something. My guess it's going to be like at 11:59. Honestly, I really think that. Uh, I'm not really seeing anything other than we have a president who's throwing a hissy fit, and we have a Congress who is still refusing to do anything. I should rephrase that. We're having a Republican Party that's refusing to do anything. Um, Honestly, this is not very hard. Okay, I mean it's really not. And the fact is, we are still in this situation where we have one person who's going to pretty much dictate what an entire party is doing, and that's disgraceful. Okay, it really is. It's disgraceful. No one person should have this much. I don't want to say or control or whatever you want to call it over an entire party, like Trump does. Okay, this is a party. This is like your national party, and one guy, and I say guy because I refuse to call him a man because he's not a man. Uh, One guy is controlling this whole thing, and it's scary. Uh, we're talking about keeping the government going and these stimulus packages and things like that that are we have a government who is trying to uh, who's trying to do what's right, and trying to help people, and you can sit there and say that they all have it, their own motives and their own whatever, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. um, but this shit continues, and here's the part that's killing me, right? If you look at this, and let me spotlight this, okay? Republican Ron Johnson blocked an effort to deliver $1,200 stimulus checks to the American today, citing deficit concerns. Are you fucking kidding me? Deficit concerns. These guys gave tax breaks to people who don't deserve tax breaks, and all of a sudden they're worried about the deficit now? Really? All of a sudden the deficit is a thing now? You guys didn't care 2 years ago. They could have cared less 2 years ago. It meant nothing to them. Knowing that we were going to dig a hole deeper and deeper and deeper meant nothing to them. Absolutely nothing. But now they're worried about a deficit. These guys should be ashamed of themselves. Scott Dworkin put it best: traitors going to treason. Okay? I mean, these guys are unbelievable. How the hell do you do that? How do you do that? How do you sit there and say, you know what, we're worried about a deficit now, whenever they didn't care before? They didn't care at all before. Now all of a sudden they're worried about a deficit. The part that gets me, folks, here's the thing that gets me probably more than anything else in the world. Let's go back to Reagan. Okay, this is going back maybe for a lot of you. And if it does, I'm sorry. But Reagan had this idea, and he really peddled trickle down economics a lot. Okay. And the idea was whenever you give a break to the people at the top, that break will trickle down to everybody else. In other words, if you give it to the people who own the businesses, that break and everything that goes along with it will trickle down to like management, and then lower management, and then finally the people in the shops, or the grunts or whatever. Okay, but it doesn't work that way, because in order for you to own a business, and believe me, I've owned a business, I can tell you firsthand, it takes some greed. Okay, and I hate to say that, but it really does, because you're not going to put forth this type of effort and take this type of risk if there's not going to be a payoff at the end. And the payoff's got to be greater than just a paycheck. Okay, there's got to be a whole lot that goes with that, or no one's going to have that opportunity, or no one's going to take the chance in order to do that. So right away we have to look at, there's a financial motive, right, in order to start this business. And if I'm telling you that I'm going to give you a break as the owner, I promise you, he's not going to pass it on to the people below him. Okay, he's just not going to. Okay, here's Frank. Hey, Frank, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I was trying to kind of explain this idea of trickle down economics to people in the context of this problem that we have. We have to keep the government going basically by the end of the day, right? I mean, by midnight, we got to do something to keep this thing going.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to explain trickle down economics and how it really doesn't work, because once you give the owner of the company a financial incentive, he's going to keep it, right? He's not going to throw it down to the people below him, because it's not in his best interest to do that.
Right.
And yet we have Republicans right now who are fighting the stimulus checks and the stimulus, because they're and the rationale for doing so is deficit.
Right.
And my argument was, you fuckers didn't care 2 years ago about deficit spending. You were more than willing to do that 2 years ago, when we weren't in a pandemic, when people weren't going to lose their homes, when people weren't going to be kicked out of their homes because the landlord has to make rent. They didn't care about it then, and all of a sudden deficit's a big deal now.
Right.
I can't get over the hypocrisy.
Yeah, I mean, they're always going to be that way. They've shown themselves to be that way consistently in every administration that's ever been. A Republican administration, it basically has built up the deficit, and then when the Republicans or the Democrats come in and clean it up, and then anytime there's any spending on a social program, they whine and cry. Anytime the people get anything, they whine and cry. But when the big fat cats get their big breaks and they go into deficit to do it, it's all fine and dandy, because under the guise of, well, they're going to continue to create jobs. They'll create jobs. Well, even if they did create jobs, the jobs they're creating are shit wage jobs. The wages have not increased in our country in how many years? The minimum wage hasn't gone up. Unions are less capable or potent of handling getting wages to increase because of the weakening of unions, which was all a political thing as well. So the everyday American has lost out on this deal, has clearly lost out on this deal for probably about the last close to 40 years. There's been very little wage increase, and real dollars and even buying power has reduced. So it's amazing. I got to give them credit on one thing. They're able to maintain that message with I hate to say it, Patsy, but with the dumb fucks that are out here. Okay, they're able to maintain that message to these dumb fucks that think that they're fucking telling them that, oh yeah, you got to keep giving the fat cats these breaks because they're going to keep you employed.
Yeah, the part I don't get is I've had this argument with folks, and it's basically the same thing. And their argument is, well, we really have to give it to them because we need the job. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? Right? If this guy isn't willing to eat that, his company goes under, and you're going to be hired by somebody else who's willing to pay you more.
Right.
And it's not a theoretical thing like trickle downers, right? It's not a theoretical thing. It's a historic thing.
Yeah.
That's history has always worked.
Right.
Okay. The fact that we have somebody, let's say they make widgets, okay, and they're downtown, they're on Moravia Street, they make widgets. And for whatever reason, because of our financial structure, this guy can no longer make widgets, but there's a need for widgets. Somebody else is going to.
Right.
Right? It's happened historically.
Yeah.
It's not a theory.
Right.
It's happened. We have documented evidence of it. There's nothing that says it's never going to happen again. There's
Right.
somebody's going to be there to fill the gap.
Yeah. They need the workers. They need the workers to continue to produce their product. And without the workers, they're not going to be able to fulfill the demand. Yes, machine learning is on its way. Yes, there will be machinery that replaces a lot of workers at some point in time, but that's going to happen inevitably. So you might as well try to fight for a fair wage while you can. And we don't seem to have that message resonating with people. But hey, listen, it's on them. It's actually on those people that end up getting paid probably a third to 40% of what they should be making in real dollars, based upon where we should have been going in this country about the time that Reagan stepped in and pulled this shit.
You know the part that kills me, between the 16th and 19th centuries, okay, France had a footwear, for lack of a better term, called sabot.
Okay.
Okay. And that's basically what they call their wooden clogs was sabot. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And it went on for like 300 years. When the Industrial Revolution came around, the workers who were going to be replaced by the machinery for big automation in this Industrial Revolution, they would take their shoes and they would throw them into the machines. And that's where the word sabotage came from.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
It's because the workers were taking their shoes that was known as sabot and trying to break the machinery by throwing their shoes into it.
Yeah. Interesting history lesson.
So this has gone on. This is the 21st century. This happened in the 16th. Okay. So we're not breaking new ground here.
Right.
All right. This is literally history repeating itself.
Yeah.
Over the course of 400 years.
We just have to learn to adapt. And that's the problem. People want to go backwards. That's been the message that's been resonating for the last 4 years is let's go backwards, right? Let's go back to this time that we perceived as white people was the great time in our country, which was, by the way, I experienced something in the last year that you know about. My son had appendicitis and he had to have his appendix out.
Right.
If we went back in time, not that long ago, we were living in a world really not that long ago where that was basically a death sentence and a parent had to watch their child die.
In our lifetime, Lou or Frank.
Yeah. So like saying let's make America great again by going back to those times, by not believing in science and medicine and stuff like that, it's not. It's just not. And no parent, no person in this country really wants that. They've been sucked in by this con man.
I've never understood this theory. Well, I get the people on one side of it. I don't get the people on the other side of it, right? I get the people on the one side of it who have an agenda, who are telling you, look, if this goes on, you're going to lose your job. You're not going to be wanted anymore. They've been telling people that in the coal industry for 30 years, minimum, right? We still have coal, right? The idea is that these things don't happen overnight. These changes don't apply overnight. And you are given more than enough time and more than enough opportunity to take what you have learned over these last 20, 30, 40 years and apply them into whatever this newfangled whatever is. Okay, it's not like they walk up to you and they say, okay, you know what? We have a machine that can do what you're doing now. Goodbye, you're out. Right? That doesn't happen. It's never happened. You have the ability to not only adapt to this, but because you now have a very specific and particular skill set, to actually increase your pay and increase your worth, because you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have these things that these guys are now automating.
Right.
You can apply to this. And instead of being the person who hammers the nail into the bottom of the shoe, you're able to take all of this and move it so, well, a machine is doing it, but you're controlling the machine. And in return, you have a much longer lifespan, and your life becomes far more easier because you're not breaking your back. You're not killing yourself in order to make a living. It's always been that way. It's never strayed from that relationship ever. And it still kills me that people buy into this.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Nobody walks up to you one day and says, you know what, there's a machine that can do what you're doing now. Goodbye. It's never happened.
No.
But yet people fall for it.
Yeah.
There was a huge article in a CBS News. Okay? Big article in CBS News. And I wanted to point this out. Okay? And here it is, right? 50 years of tax cuts for the rich failed to trickle down. First of all, you really shouldn't need a study for that, but I understand why you do, because like academics need that. I get that, right? And honestly, it serves a greater good than it does. There's far more upside to it than downside, and obviously there is. Tax cuts for the wealthy, yada, 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 yada. But the London School of Economics says 50 years of such tax cuts have only helped the rich.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 50 years they studied, just so it's clear, to people, they studied 1965 to 2015. Okay. And during those time periods, there was large creation of wealth. So there's not a loss of overall wealth. There's just no trickle down of income to middle and lower class folks and working class. So it's real important to take a look at that time frame and understand that.
You know, the part that, and I'm probably getting a little bit ahead, Frank, but the people who have the most power, and if you don't believe that people, just like ordinary people, have the most power, you didn't pay attention to the last election.
Right.
Okay. Ordinary people, an ordinary person may not, but ordinary people do. Okay. Your middle class, the people who are working, who are making a difference, even if it's just a small difference in their neighborhood or their community, or maybe even in their household, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you combine all those people and you take them as a whole, they have far more power than the Bill Gateses of the world. Believe it or not, they really do, or the Bezoses or whatever, right? Because at the end of the day, as rich as you are, you need me, you need us, right? Now, as an individual, you don't have a whole lot of leverage there, but as a demographic, you have a huge amount of leverage there.
Mm-hmm.
And this last election have shown, I mean, Joe Biden got more votes than anybody in the history of this country. I understand we're still a young country, but no one's ever gotten more votes than he is. And you look at landslides, right? You look at Reagan's landslide. You look at Obama's second term, his landslide, where at 9:05 they were calling the election for Biden or for Obama, right? Polls closed at 9 o'clock. At 9:05, they're like, he's the winner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You look at that huge one that Reagan had. No one had more votes than Joe Biden did, simply because so many people in the same demographic went out and said, you know what, we're not putting up with this. We're not taking this.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough. And yet these same people look at these folks and say, well, if they don't have the jobs, I can't feed myself. I can't feed my family. That oxymoron, that speaking out of both sides of their mouth, Frank, I don't get it. I don't understand it, because you just shown you have the power to change a country.
Mm-hmm.
You have the power to change the world. All you got to do is have enough strength to say, I matter.
Mhm.
How's that so hard?
Well, because when we've had what that's been in the workplace has been unions, and we've vilified unions in our country. And then when we turn to politics or politicians to ask for fairness, they say we're a country that's basically hands off in terms of business. We're not going to say to a business, we don't want to regulate businesses to death. So that's where we're left. So we have to have a voice that unifies people. And where is that going to come from? Is it going to come from spontaneity? Is it going to come out of the thin air? Somebody's got to instruct folks to understand that basically there is nobody that is organizing around this issue. If people are waiting for politicians to do it, boy, they've been waiting for 50 years. Okay, if they're waiting for somebody else at work to say all of us deserve a raise, that's not going to happen. And if you're waiting for your boss to just generously give out what you're worth, your value, that's not going to happen. So yeah, you're right. It has to be spoken. It has to be brought into existence, and somebody's going to have to lead that campaign, so to speak. But folks are not organizing around it, and I'm sure there's studies and reasons why, but I would guess it comes down to this basic thing. Everybody's worried about their own little problem, which is I'm not minimizing it, but everybody's worried about their own little world, so to speak, to the point where they're not saying, "Let me look out for how I can collectively make this better for everybody." And we all need to get in the same boat and pull, row together so that we get to where we need to go.
Hi, Lou.
Hi, guys.
Lou?
What I miss?
um, we're trying to figure out why the hell normal run of the mill, let's call them middle class people, are more than willing to still to this day after 50 years accept trickle down economics as the way to go whenever it's been proven it simply doesn't work.
Because the message isn't there. That's what I thought Frank was saying when I caught the last little bit of what he said. And it's been over and over. The last tax cut for what, 1.5 trillion or more, 84% went for stock buybacks.
Mm-hmm.
So where'd the other 16% go? Probably to Bezos and the billionaires in their bank accounts. Maybe a little bit to some of the unions and others that, I made a little bit more on commission just because the business was there. But minimum wage is still $7.25.
You know what? Do you remember what the minimum wage was before it went up to $7.25?
Was it 5 something?
It was thing of 575.
It was something, right? 570. Let's say 575, just for argument's sake. Let's say 570.
And it wasn't that many years before that. I mean, that it did 575 didn't actually hold, I don't believe, that long.
No, there was a pretty quick uptick to 575, right? And then to seven. What would you say it was?
725.
Whatever was 575. Whatever was 575, and it went up to 725. I was working at Borden Arrows Market. Okay, that place doesn't even exist anymore. But I was working there because the place that I was at before that closed down. Okay. And I was working at Borden Arrows, and I remember Joe Borden, and I remember Becky, and my wife was working there, and my who is now my sister-in-law worked there. And I remember Joe, whenever this thing went from 5 whatever to 7 whatever, sitting there looking at me and saying, "Well, I'm not going to be able to hire more people now." And I looked at him and I said, "Joe, do you need to hire more people? Because don't forget, it was a small place, right? It was a mom and pop." And he said, "Well, if I did, I couldn't." And I said, "But you don't need to, right? I mean, we have, I think there was like 7 or 8 employees, right? At the time, it wasn't a whole lot." And I said, "Why are you willing to just hire somebody just to hire them? Or are you going to hire somebody because you need them?" because what you're telling me doesn't make much sense. If this thing's going up to 7.25 or 7.75 or whatever the case may be tomorrow, but you don't need anybody today whenever it's at 5 whatever, why do you assume you're going to need more people when it goes up? And he said, well, I'm not saying I'm going to. And I'm like, well, yes, you are. That's literally what you're telling me. So either we need more people and you just weren't willing to do it yesterday, or we don't need more people and you're just using this as an excuse to bitch. Because the increase in pay doesn't in any way affect your need for more workers. You either need them or you don't. That increase in pay is meaningless if you don't need them. And if you do need them, you should have hired them already.
The other thing about that is this: if folks in the community are going to make more money, which is typically what happens when the minimum wage goes up, that means more people are going to be out buying his products. That means that if he needs to hire more people, he's going to have more revenue. And the more revenue leads to more ability to hire more people. So it's a cycle that works in that respect. When there's more money in the community, vendors make more money because there's more people to buy and more buying power. So it's really a stupid straw man argument that he was making.
Yeah, I look.
Seattle and in Portland when they went up to 14, 15 an hour doomsday scenario. Well, there was a couple, just an example, a few pizza shops closed within a month claiming we can't make it, the wages are too high. 6 months time, there were more pizza shops in Portland and Seattle than what there were when minimum wage was half. Just because of what you two just said. Guess what? The more money to spend, which created demand, and it decreased, unemployment. Unemployment went down. More people worked. More shops opened, included not just pizza shops, but little businesses.
If I'm making, I don't know, let's just be stupid, okay? If I'm making $100 worth of sales a day at 5 whatever an hour, okay? I'm paying my employees 5 whatever an hour. I'm making $100 worth of sales today. And I'm told I have to increase to $7. But yet everybody else is also forced to increase to $7. And instead of making $100 in sales a day, I'm making $150 a day. Did I really lose anything? What did I lose? As long as people have money to spend, they're going to spend it. It's just that simple. Okay? If I can make my life a little easier and saying, you know what, 1 day a week I'm going to buy pizza instead of no days a week I'm going to buy pizza, does it not benefit literally everybody in that chain? From the person who's buying to the employee to the owner. Is that not benefiting everybody in this hierarchy?
A question I heard him saying one day I was out, he says, they're going to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour and prices are going to go up. I said, so since the minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2007, why have prices for food doubled in 13 years? And he didn't know what to say. I said, where'd that money go?
Right. Where'd it go?
Where did it go? I don't know. I could tell you where it went. I said, increased shareholder profit, increased CEO salary.
I'll do you one better. Why do people feel like they're indentured? Right, because this is basically what we're talking about. Why do you, as the person making whatever it may be, feel indentured to somebody who's paying your wage?
Do you know the people most pissed off about the wages going to an hour? The ones making 10 and 12 right now.
Right.
Yeah,
they
why?
don't. Their wage will commensurately go up as well. They don't understand that. They don't get that they're not going to just go to 15. That if somebody's making 7.25 and they go to 15, then the $10 wage earner needs to go to and say, if I was worth 10 before the floor was 15, when the floor was 7, then I'm worth 20 now, and that's where it goes.
Right, and the fact is, they don't even have to say that, right? Our system will say that for them.
Right.
Right? They don't even need to approach their employer and say this. I don't want to say society.
Have you ever walked?
It will happen
Have
automatically.
you ever walked into a Sheetz or something, Pittsburgh, Cranberry, anywhere out in that area? Have you ever seen the sign, wages starting at $12, $13 an hour?
Yep.
What's the reason? They need good help, and they're willing to pay over minimum wage to get it.
Yep.
It's the same thing. If they have to go to 15, they'll go to 15, and if need be, they'll go to 16.
That's right.
If productivity kept up with the minimum wage since 2000, or productivity kept up with what minimum wage was in 1969, the minimum wage right now should be $24 an hour.
Right, just to keep things even. Just to keep things even.
What say today on Discord? Where exactly is what it is? Voonomics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they have people believing that's the good way.
And the fact is that you have so many people willing to make that argument against their own best interest. Right? The one thing I want is for people, and this is going to sound maybe a bit elitist, but the one thing I want is for people, I guess, below me who are not capable of earning the wage that I'm making. The one thing I want more than anything is for their wages to increase. Because even if I'm being selfish as hell, that makes my wage worth so much more.
Yeah.
Right? Why are people not willing to just accept that? They don't have to fight for it. And that's the killer, Frank. That's the part that's killing me. They don't have to fight for it. They don't have to go to their employer and say, this is what I'm worth now, right? It happens. They can literally do nothing and just benefit from it. All they have to do is just sit back and shut up.
Yeah, they argue against their own interest actively, and they've been sucked into that. It's really amazing. That's before Lou came on. One of the things I said was, I tip my hat to that side for their amazing messaging, because they've made these people believe enough that they're willing to forego what they should have coming to them. You know.
Yep. Because they make you feel like you owe them something for hiring you. Yeah. Like, why do you think so little of yourself?
What was the main thing? Be thankful you have a job.
Be thankful you have a job, right? Here's what I'll tell you. Be thankful that you can hire me.
Yeah. Be thankful for a good employee, because we know the stories of people who hire somebody, they never show up, they don't show up for training, they quit after a week. You got somebody that's showing up every day, you ought to be thankful for that person.
Look, be thankful that you have somebody that can pass a piss test.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Be thankful that you can do that. And because I promise you, if you get rid of me, and I'm not, all three of us have, specific skills that have done this well and have served us well. But if you're just somebody who's working in the shop that's pushing a broom, right? Which, let's face it, is not the most highly technical thing in the world. Doesn't by any means kneecap your worth or what you're capable, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to belittle you by any means. But if what we are telling you is you're not worth $7 an hour, you're worth $15. Why are you fighting that? Why are you saying, no, I'm not, I'm only worth 7? Right?
You know what?
Dude, you're worth more than that.
I think the thing is you have almost 2 generations between now and what the middle class was in the 50s and 60s. And they tend to forget that, you know what, that guy that pushed the broom, that didn't have great skills, you know what, he was able to supply his family with food and shelter without qualifying for food stamps and welfare.
Right. He's able to help his family, to provide for his family without government assistance. Right. And I understand there's a pride thing. Don't get me wrong. I get that. I understand that. And trust me, no one's more susceptible to that than I am. I understand that. We have guys. I have a guy right now where I work who is the lowest paid person on our payroll, who, because of because of the COVID and everything, we're down to 32 hours instead of our normal 40, who still doesn't qualify for unemployment, who doesn't qualify for any kind of stimulus, anything. Right? Instead of being in a position to demand that, right? And not being an island, but being people in that same bracket to demand that. He's grateful that he's getting fucked. I don't get it. Where's your dignity? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, you're worth more than what these people are telling you. Why are you not demanding it? Even if you don't sit there and tell your employer, look, I'm worth more than this. Or I'm not telling you to do that. But what I'm saying is why are you not supporting the people who are telling you you're worth more than that?
Yeah. Well,
right?
let's even take it to today, right now, this moment. All Americans, we're being basically hung out to dry for months and months and months in this country, saying, we don't have the value. We're not valuing you Americans enough to get you some help during this coronavirus pandemic. Basically, we gave you this one-time $1,200 payment, and we gave this unemployment thing that ran out, this extra unemployment that ran out, I don't know how many months ago now. But, we've been waiting for like 3-4 months for something new, and nothing's come through. And now they're talking about it. And guess what? They're talking about giving $600 check, half of what they gave before. And where are the people who, are outraged? I don't hear it. I don't hear any outrage from anybody saying, why has Mitch McConnell hung this thing up and now got it to the point where all they're going to give the average American is $600?
Right.
You're worth half of what you were, 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Yeah. And these folks are sitting there and they're thankful for it. Right? I don't understand it. Why are you thankful?
Well, and you know what? Here's some messaging you never hear on the mainstream media either. Is you take, let's take Walmart and Yum Brands. Do you realize the average Walmart costs the taxpayers $900,000 a year in food stamps, Medicaid, other welfare, because they don't get enough hours and aren't paid enough to support the family. So where's that and we are subsidizing Walton family profits to the tune of, what's each one of them getting? 20 to 40 billion a year, while they're sitting playing around on their horses and shit. So you know what, and somebody starts whining about, there you go, starts whining about the wage going up. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either you're going to pay taxes for the unemployment or for the Medicaid and welfare and food stamps, or you're going to pay, and if they absorb that without being greedy, guess what? What would it cost? An extra, I think I read maybe $1 a visit on $150.
Right. Walmart and McDonald's, right, have the most workers on food stamps. Well, let's think about this for a second. We've decided that we're going to take the majority well, I don't know if it's the majority. I should preface that. I don't know if it's the majority or not. And I want to put this back so it's equal with us. We have a large portion of our society who have decided that they are just going to be grateful that they have a job. Okay? Obviously, they're either the undereducated or the uneducated. In either case, right? And believe me when I tell you, this is not it's not a judgment thing. I'm just calling it out for what it is. And they're working at McDonald's because they can't get a job anywhere else, right? They're working at Walmart because stocking shelves is about the best they can do. But is their burden any more or any less than ours? Do they still not have a family to support?
Their burden's worse.
Right? Well, it's worse because they can't. They don't have the means to meet that burden, but they're doing the same thing we are. We just happen to have a mechanism to make it easier for us, right? But is it any different? Are they shouldering any more responsibility? Are they shouldering any more burden than like everybody else is? No, they're not, right? For whatever reason, they lack the capacity that we share, but their burden's the same. Are they not entitled to have that same dignity?
Yeah. I bet they take more shit on their jobs from people instructing them to stock shelves, don't take breaks, and everything else than we do on ours.
I promise they do. I mean, are their spouses or their children worth any less than ours? No. Right? There's no difference. We've been lucky through the grace of God or whatever it may be that we can. It's easier for us to administer this, but the burden's the same. We're just capable of doing it better.
You know, here's the other thing that goes a little even deeper into this, which is, I mean, we could do show after show on this. Walmart started and made their big fortune by getting all that government subsidy, like you said, to build these buildings. But they have cheap products that most of them are made by, Chinese manufacturers. The pricing is cheaper than American made goods. And I'm talking going back many, many years. So they help to contribute to this whole, basically the cycle of, driving American products out of business, driving mom and pop shops in local towns out of business, and then we argue for them to suppress wages, which is just it's mind blowing.
It is, and I look at little mom and pops like Willer Hardware down in Mahoning Town, right? And I'll be honest, I'm as responsible as anybody else because it's so much easier for me to get on my PC and do a couple of clicks and go on Amazon and be able to order something. But that practice basically put this mom and pop place that's been around forever out of business. Right?
You know what? You take the big boxes like, say, Lowe's and Home Depot. Do you realize they're selling screws and stuff for less than what Tommy was probably buying them for?
Sure they were. But you know what? If you needed a hot water tank right now, I needed somebody to tell you how to hook it up, that's where you were going.
Right.
Right? And that's all gone now. It's all gone. And it's not right. And I understand it's the principles of economics, right? I get that. I understand that. But at the same time, I refuse to believe that there's not room for both. I refuse to believe that. Look, I can't tell you how many things I order on Amazon. I mean, it's scary. It's absolutely frightening how many things that come into my home that I purchase is in an Amazon box. Right?
Well, partly because of COVID, I've done a lot more. And as you say that, I think I have one on the front porch.
Right. And that's but I was doing that well before COVID, right? I was doing that well before, and I'll be honest with you. A big reason that I was doing it is because I didn't want to put up with the bullshit that I would have to put up with when I went to Walmart, because they drove out everybody else in town. Right? Look how many people, I'll be honest, I did the parking lot for them, right? I did the civil work for Walmart up here in Union Township, right? So you got a bitch, it's my fault, right? I did it all, right? If you're gonna fall and slip on the ice, it's my fault. But whenever they came into town, all of the mom and pops, all the local things were shot to hell. They were gone. Within a year, they were gone. And now here I am, because I don't want to put up with their shit. I'm more than willing to give Bezos all of my money, whatever it is, because I don't want to deal with their shit. I'd much rather have it show up on my porch and hear my dogs bark for 5 minutes.
Here's a number for you that a lot of people don't realize. What percent of total Chinese imports in the United States are sold by Walmart?
Oh, shit. 80? 85? I'm just making it up. I don't know.
No, we think about the country as a whole and retailers. It's 11.2% of all Chinese imports go through Walmart.
Oh. I misunderstood you.
No, like total you think about everything imported for everything. 11.2% of the Chinese total actually goes through Walmart.
Through one retailer.
One retailer.
That's just one, right? That's just one.
Yeah.
You guys remember how much just here locally? How much are Walmart Union Township destroyed?
Yeah.
Newcastle?
Yeah.
You think about what year did Walmart come in? Is it 20 yet?
Yeah, because they were here before my son was born, and he's 20. Because like I said, I did the civil work for that whole site.
Mid-90s?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I'd say 95. I mean, we're within a couple of years, right? But it's easy math that way, right?
Okay, you think about, well, you said Board Narrow Fruit Market. Independent grocery stores that couldn't handle Ralph's.
Yeah.
Ralph's.
New Model Bakery. Well, they're retiring, but still.
Was it Lewski's?
Was Lewski's.
Right? It was like it was the
on Sheep Hill. You know, Weller Hardware.
There was the hardware store up on North Hill.
Well, think about just the little clothing shops downtown.
Yeah.
The women's dress shop, Teen Corner.
Teen Corner was gone. I mean, my school was next to where Teen Corner used to be.
Yeah, I mean, just little jewelry store, boutique.
Yeah. Perlman's. Right? Whenever I was a kid, it was like their third floor was like where all the video games were. Right?
Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right.
Right? Remember that, Frank?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah. Look at what these big boxes took away.
Mm-hmm.
right? And I understand everybody's looking for the deal, right? Because you're going to get a better deal at Walmart than you're going to be at Joe Schmo's mom and pop, right? Because mom and pops buy in such small quantities,
Yeah.
and Walmart buys in such huge quantities that
What about
they get this huge discount, right? I understand that. I get that. I'm not so sure that was the best thing that ever happened to us, though.
no? They also got people sucked in with the convenience because if you remember, and this seems like ages ago, but they were open. They became a super center, so they were open 24 hours a day, every day. And people needed something in the middle of the night for your kid or whatever after 10 p.m. when everybody else was closed, after 8 p.m. when a lot of places are closed. You go to Walmart and you get everything at one place, one-stop shopping, and you can go there anytime. And they suck people in, and then once you start going there for that, then you start saying, well, might as well go out to Walmart because we can get everything we need there. And it just slowly became part of the fabric of your shopping experience, basically.
Sure. Look how many places died. I got a text from my mom. She said, Stambaugh Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember, she used to work there whenever she was a kid. That's how long, that's how long they were.
The regional chain that was around, they were based out of Youngstown. Another one at you. Who put Fisher Big Will out of business?
Yeah, there you go. Right?
You hear this is direct tie to Abraham. He says, do you know what Walmart did with the super centers? One day he's talking to me. I said, what? He took our Big Will idea and tripled it, and we thought they were nuts.
Yep.
You remember Big Will had a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We thought they were crazy whenever they had their corporate headquarters. Remember, they built the building right next to it, and that was their corporate place?
Yeah.
We're like, what the hell are they doing? Remember? Yeah. And I knew a couple of sales guys for them. One of the sales guys lived across the street from me whenever I was living at my parents' house before I got married. Right? And he told me then, and this is, oh God, I've been married for 20 years. So we're looking late 80s, early 90s. And he's telling me, dude, we're out of business. We can't survive this. Right? I mean, and that was out in the street on Fairmont Avenue. I mean, we're standing in the middle of the street. And he's telling me this. He said, we can't survive. He said, I'm going to be out of work. I got to find something else to do. He knew it then.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And these people, all these years later, are still empowering this.
Yeah.
They're still doing it.
Yeah, the business model is being empowered by political decisions, by a failure to demand what you're worth, by a failure to demand quality, service, etc. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Do you realize how many small business people back Republicans when Republicans are not backing them? All they're doing is bowing to the 1%.
Right. And we've all experienced it. Right? I don't know about you, Lou, but I'm still experiencing it. And they honestly believe that it's in their best interest. And I'm like, dude, you're not worth you're worth a lot here in Lawrence County. You're worth a fuck ton here. Overall, you're not worth anything. They don't care about you. They don't care. Yet you're supporting them. And they'll stab you in the neck as soon as they look at you.
Yep.
They don't care. But you're supporting them. Why? Because you're going to get, an extra buck? Look at what you're selling in return for that extra buck. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And yet they're doing it. And they're willing to do it. They're willing to. I've seen guys twist themselves in knots. Frank, it's disgusting. I've seen twist themselves in knots trying to explain how the math doesn't add up just for masks. And I'm sitting and I'm watching these people. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Look, if you're going to tell me that a small section, a small portion of things are telling you this because it's in their best interest, okay, I'll believe it. When the entire fucking world is telling you this, you mean nothing to them. Okay? Somebody in Germany, you don't mean shit to them. And they're telling you put on a mask. Why is that so hard? But it's this idea that these folks think that because today I can make an extra $1, if that means I lose 10 tomorrow, well, that's how it goes. That's okay. It kills me. I don't understand it. I simply do not understand it. And Lou, I mean, we work for somebody like that, right? You and I work for somebody like that. He just, I'm sorry, I don't consider him successful. I consider him a leech.
He made most of his money on buying and selling, basically like Romney, leverage buyouts.
Yeah. That's a
He
leech.
did it on a smaller scale, but that's what he did to Airway Luggage in Elwood City.
It was one of the biggest companies going. How many people did they employ? Everybody heard of Airway Luggage.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. And just whenever we were getting our foot in the door, and basically, and I think you said it the best, from the Mississippi to the east, no one could touch us. It all caved in. It all died. We scared how many other big companies? And we were somebody out of West Pittsburgh.
Oh, we put a dent in quite a few in this region. They were scratching their asses trying to figure out what happened for a couple of years.
And Frank, we got guys that couldn't show up every other Friday. Every other Friday, our shop was closed down because these guys would get their paychecks and go blow it on drugs.
Yeah.
And these big companies couldn't hold a candle to us.
You know what, Patsy? Right now, I have to deal with some of these big companies that are supposedly the kings and, the premier suppliers. After dealing with them and the incidents I've had this year, guess what? Them guys that didn't show up every other Friday, they were more dependable than some of these clowns.
Right? Look, how many people came to you on our dock and all they wanted was hardware? And you couldn't supply it to them. All they wanted was a means of ingress and egress, and you couldn't give it to them. And we had them on the shelves 2 months before that. How many times did you have to tell them no?
Sold it and pocketed the money.
Yeah, it was the easiest sales in the world. Frank, we had contractors backing up to our dock saying, "I need 10 doors." It was the easiest sale on the planet. We couldn't supply it to them.
Huh.
How many? What was his face from Slippery Rock? Was there like every other day? Like, give me a door, give me 2 doors, give me something. Remember?
Oh, Bob.
There you go.
Rock.
It's terrible.
Load 10 doors in that van and wonder how the hell the shock stayed on it.
I remember.
Frank, we're not talking a van. We're talking a minivan.
Yeah, we're talking minivan.
With the fold-up back hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the hatchback, right? And Lou and I are both trying to figure out how we're going to get 6 in there, let alone 10.
He said, it'll fit. He took the seats out.
That's too much.
Simply because
hit the phone out of the parking lot.
Because he was building something and he needed 10 doors right now.
Yeah.
Right? That by itself, we were in. We were in. And we couldn't do that. It was terrible. It was terrible. Lou, it's still. I'm gonna go to my grave. Looking at this is like what could have been. We could retire. We could have retired by now.
I would have been making some big bucks.
Well, you would have been.
I think it would have forced it up to you too.
Well, I get the trickle down thing. Right?
Yeah.
It was this guy, Frank. It was this guy. And it was 5 minutes from our house. Well, 5 minutes from my house, 10 minutes from Lou's. It's terrible. We had the world by the balls. All we had to do was just make doors. That was it. That's all we had to do. Just make a door.
We could have been happy there with our half sister.
Well, you're a half sister. All right, folks. I think we're going to call it a night. It's terrible. Oh my God. We have to get together sometime. Anyhow, folks, thank you very much for joining us. We will be back on Monday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Monday will be it before Christmas. So for all of our Christians and who are watching, we'll see you guys before Christmas.
And happy Hanukkah right now.
And right now, right? Hopefully it's a good one, right? Hopefully this time next year we'll be in a far better place than we are now, right? It'll be wonderful to see. But until then, same bad time, same bad channel. We will see everybody Monday. Okay. Goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody on Monday. Bye-bye, everybody.
Weekend.